On a humid August night in 1977, America lost its king. Elvis Presley, the boy from Tupelo who shook the world with his voice and his hips, was gone at just 42. Graceland became the shrine of his life, but scattered across the highways of America are smaller, humbler shrines. Motels where Elvis stayed, laughed, sang, or simply passed through. Most of these motels have long since been demolished, renamed, or forgotten. Yet one story endures, the tale of the motel where Elvis checked in, and in memory, never really left. This isn't just a story about a building. It's about the way America wrapped its heart around Elvis Presley, and how even the most ordinary of roadside places could be transformed into legends when the king walked through their doors. Elvis on the road. In the 1950s and early 60s, before private jets and armored tour buses, Elvis Presley lived on the American highway. His life was one of constant movement, town to town, show to show. And in those early days, before luxury hotels opened their doors to the swiveling hipped star, Elvis and his band often stayed in modest motels along two-lane roads. They were the kinds of places any family might pull into. Neon signs buzzing, cars parked just outside room doors, swimming pools glowing turquoise at night. To Elvis, they were temporary shelters, but to fans who discovered he had once slept in a room, they became hallowed ground. The Heartbreak Hotel Connection. It was no accident that Elvis's first number one hit in 1956 was Heartbreak Hotel. The song was inspired by a real newspaper article about a lonely man who had taken his own life in a Florida hotel. Elvis and his songwriters imagined a world where broken-hearted souls checked in and never left. When the record hit the airwaves, something shifted in America. Suddenly, motels and hotels weren't just anonymous way stations. They became part of the Elvis mythology. A roadside room could be a stage, a confession booth, or a heartbreak chamber. Every motel Elvis touched seemed to echo with that song's lyrics. The Motel in Shreveport. One of the most enduring Elvis motel legends comes from Shreveport, Louisiana. It was here, in the mid-1950s, that Elvis often stayed while performing on the famous Louisiana Hayride radio program, a show that gave him his first national exposure. Local memory places him at a modest motor court near the Municipal Auditorium, the kind of place with gravel parking lots and metal lawn chairs set outside the rooms. Fans recall seeing the young Elvis strumming his guitar on the steps, talking with neighbors, or grabbing a Coke from a vending machine. The motel itself is gone now, like so many others, bulldozed for development. But in Shreveport, people still point to the spot and say, "That's where Elvis stayed." And in their stories, he still sits on those steps, forever young, forever just about to take the stage. The Riviera Motel in Memphis. Closer to home, in Memphis, Elvis often checked into the Riviera Motel during the early days of his fame. Just across the river from Arkansas, it was a place where Elvis could gather with his band and escape the frenzy of Graceland for a night. Old photographs show him lounging poolside, laughing with friends, his hair slicked back, eyes shielded by sunglasses. Locals still remember the excitement of spotting his pink Cadillac parked outside, a beacon that the king was inside. The Riviera is gone now, replaced by chain hotels and anonymous office buildings. But in Memphis, the memory remains. For fans, the Riviera is part of Elvis's map of the city. Less famous than Sun Studio or Graceland, but still sacred.
I'll walk right out on you if you want my love and take.
Clarksdale, Mississippi. Elvis in the Delta. Another motel remembered in Elvis lore sits in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the heart of the Delta blues. Here, Elvis checked into a small roadside inn while on tour in the 1950s. The story goes that he walked across the street to a juke joint, listened to blues musicians, and then returned to his room inspired. It's impossible to know how much is fact and how much is legend. But what's undeniable is the poetry of it. Elvis, the white boy from Tupelo, spending a night in a Delta motel where the ghosts of Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters seem to hum through the walls. For fans, that motel becomes more than a building. It becomes a crucible of history, where rock and roll's past and future brushed shoulders. Why motels mattered. Elvis's connection to motels wasn't about luxury, it was about accessibility. Unlike the gilded lobbies of big city hotels, motels felt ordinary. They were democratic, open to traveling salesmen, families, truck drivers, and yes, even the biggest star in the world. When Elvis stayed in a motel, fans felt a bond. They thought, if the king can sleep here, so can I. The motels became places where the myth met reality. Even more, motels reflected the tempo of Elvis's life. Restless, transient, always on the move. They were perfect metaphors for a man who seemed unable to stay in one place for long. After 1977, the pilgrimages. When Elvis died in August 1977, motels he had once visited became unofficial shrines. Fans checked into rooms they believed he had stayed in, snapping photos, writing tributes in guest books, even chiseling out small pieces of wall plaster as souvenirs. Owners of these motels sometimes leaned into the legend, advertising, "Elvis slept here." Others downplayed it, uncomfortable with the frenzy. Either way, the memory of Elvis was good for business. A modest room that once cost $8 a night became priceless simply because Elvis had once turned a key there. The motel that never left memory. So which was the motel where Elvis never left in memory? The truth is, it isn't just one. It's all of them. The Shreveport Motor Court, the Riviera in Memphis, the Inn in Clarksdale, and countless others across the South and Midwest. Each carried a piece of Elvis's restless journey. Each became immortalized not by bricks and mortar, but by the stories fans passed down. These motels are gone, yet they remain alive in memory, because Elvis stayed there. Like Heartbreak Hotel itself, they are metaphors for a man whose presence transformed every space he touched. The story of Elvis and the motels is really the story of America in the 1950s and 60s. Highways stretching into the horizon, neon signs glowing in the night, rock and roll on the radio, and families chasing the dream of freedom. Elvis was the soundtrack.
Though you're not good for me.
And motels were the stage. Though the buildings have crumbled, the memories have not.